It's human nature to pause and stare at anyone who looks rare. It's not the most admirable trait of humanity, but it exists nonetheless. Carnival sideshows and freak shows have long placed the unusual and malformed on display. While some argue that these shows at least gave people a way to earn a living, for many, they were simply a sorrowful chapter in an already difficult life. In this video, we're going to look at the lives of 15 circus sideshow freaks that actually existed. Number 15, Juan Baptista dos Santos. Jean, also recorded as Juan, Baptista dos Santos was reportedly a Romani man born in Faro, Portugal, around 1843, to parents of average health and two other typical children. His career as a medical curiosity never made it to the public circus circuit, though it nearly did. In 1865, he famously turned down a massive offer of 200,000 francs to perform for 2 years with a French traveling show. Dos Santos was born with 2 fully functioning male parts and 3 scrotums. The 2 outer sacs each contained a single testicle, while he claimed the central one had once held 2 fully formed testes, which had retracted into his abdomen by age 10. His condition fascinated medical professionals across Europe. While he remained outside the world of freak show exhibitionism, his unique anatomy placed him in the upper ranks of historical anatomical rarities. He remains one of the few documented cases of diphallia paired with triple scrotal structure, drawing international attention from doctors well into the 20th century. Number 14, Lazarus and Johannes Baptista Colorado. The Colorado twins were among the earliest documented examples of conjoined twins, living in the early 1600s, more than 150 years before Chang and Eng. Touring throughout Europe, the Colorado brothers achieved remarkable fame and even performed before King Charles I and Queen Henrietta, proving just how far their notoriety reached. Lazarus was fully able-bodied and reportedly fathered several children. Johannes, on the other hand, was a parasitic twin. His torso and limbs protruded from Lazarus's abdomen, though he remained immobile and unresponsive. When not performing, Lazarus kept Johannes covered with a cloak or fabric. Yet their shared body created one of history's strangest legal dilemmas. According to historian Henri Sauval, Lazarus once killed a man in anger after being mocked. But the court couldn't condemn him to death. Executing Lazarus would also mean executing Johannes, an innocent man. This paradox spared Lazarus, making the Colorados an unusual case where anatomy quite literally shaped justice. Number 13, the Pig-Faced Lady. The legend of the Pig-Faced Lady first surfaced in the 17th century England, but it exploded in popularity during the winter of 1814 to 1815. Rumors swept across London, claiming a noble family's young daughter had the face of a pig. Newspapers eagerly fueled the hysteria, publishing alleged eyewitness accounts and testimonies from people claiming to have seen her firsthand. The tale grew so popular that circuses began advertising pig-faced ladies of their own. All of them were frauds. Some used elaborate masks or prosthetics to fake the appearance. But one of the worst hoaxes occurred in the 1850s, when a circus presented a pig-faced woman who turned out to be a shaved, drunken bear in a bonnet and women's clothing. Despite repeated exposure as a myth, the pig-faced lady became a permanent fixture in sideshow folklore, symbolizing both society's obsession with deformity and the lengths entertainers would go to exploit curiosity. The myth lives on, even if the face behind it never actually existed. Number 12, Commodore Nut. In 1862, P.T. Barnum came across George Washington Morrison Nut, soon to be known as Commodore Nut, performing in small English sideshows. Barnum was reportedly appalled by how poorly he was being treated and offered Nut's family $30,000 to sign him for 3 to 5 years, promising not only employment, but a proper education. Nut became one of Barnum's most beloved performers, yet tensions rose quickly between him and another of Barnum's miniature stars, General Tom Thumb. Both men were infatuated with Lavinia Warren, another little person in the show. The rivalry grew bitter, even escalating into physical fights. When Lavinia ultimately married Tom Thumb, Nut was devastated and swore off women for years. Despite the heartbreak, Nut remained a prominent figure in the American sideshow world, known for his charm, sharp wit, and public appeal. While he lived in the shadow of Tom Thumb's fame, Commodore Nut carved out a unique place in the circus world with his humor and resilience. Number 11. Jane Barnell. Jane secured her legacy through her role as a bearded lady in the 1932 cult film Freaks. At the age of 4, while her father was away on business, Jane's mother sold her to a traveling circus. The troupe soon left for Europe. When Jane fell ill, she was left behind in a German orphanage. Miraculously, her father located her a year later and brought her home. Despite that traumatic beginning, Jane eventually returned to the stage as an adult performer. She was known for having the longest beard of any bearded woman at the time, about 3 inches. She performed under names like Lady Olga, Madame Olga, and Lady Olga Roderick. Jane even performed trapeze routines until a railroad accident forced her to stop. She later transitioned into work as a commercial photographer. Married several times, she outlived both her children. She disliked Freaks and was disappointed in how its performers were portrayed, including her own small role. Number 10. Geek Show. In the early 20th century, geek shows became one of the most disturbing features of the traveling circus. Unlike traditional freaks, geeks were performers known for one thing: biting off the heads of live animals, typically chickens or snakes, and sometimes drinking their blood. It was raw, violent, and deeply unsettling. What made geeks particularly haunting was that they were often just ordinary people. There were no deformities, no rare conditions, just desperation. Most geeks were men, but the rare female geek became a sought-after attraction due to the sheer shock value. Geeks worked for the lowest pay, usually enough to survive, but never enough to escape. They often suffered broken teeth, jaw damage, and infections from close contact with animals. The role was dangerous and brutal, with performers thrown away and replaced easily. Geek shows became the dark underbelly of circus culture, less about entertainment and more about human degradation, often blurring the line between performance and survival. Number 9. Josephine Cloffilia. Josephine was born in 1831 in Switzerland, covered in hair from the moment she entered the world. By the age of 2, she had already grown a full beard. Unsure of how to handle their daughter's appearance, her well-intentioned parents sent her off to boarding school, where both her mind and her beard continued to flourish. Eventually, Josephine entered the exhibition scene with her father acting as her agent. She later met Fortune Cloffilia, a man with an equally magnificent beard. They married and had children. While her first child sadly passed away, her second, a son, survived and famously had a beard even as an infant. She later toured with P.T. Barnum, performing alongside her bearded son. She made headlines when accused of being a disguised man. However, 3 medical experts stepped forward to confirm she was, in fact, a woman. Her later life faded into obscurity, but whatever came after it was likely far kinder than the tragic fate of Julia Pastrana. Number 8. Jennifer Miller. Jennifer Miller is a modern-day bearded lady who has fully embraced the spectacle on her own terms. Refusing to shave her face, she stepped away from mainstream expectations and leaned into her identity with fierce independence and a sense of humor. Jennifer has redefined beauty through a feminist lens and carved her space in the performance world without apology. She's the founder of Circus Amok, a New York-based political circus that blends activism, satire, and acrobatics. Her career spans far beyond just performance. She's also a writer, director, playwright, and teacher. Instead of being objectified, Jennifer controls how she's seen and how she presents herself to the world. Her act isn't about spectacle, it's about truth, confrontation, and challenging societal expectations. As a living performer who proudly embodies the freak show legacy, Jennifer turns what was once a sideshow attraction into a tool for empowerment. Number 7. Kate Brumbach, Sanguina. Katharina Brumbach was born in 1884 in Vienna, Austria, into a family of circus performers with remarkable strength. Among her many siblings, Kate stood out early on. She and 3 of her sisters joined the circus, but Kate rose to become the most legendary. Known for offering 100 marks to any man who could beat her in a wrestling match, she never lost. Her future husband, Max Heyman, tried to take the prize and ended up marrying her instead. During a U.S. tour, Kate challenged men to outlift her in strength exhibitions. One of those men was Eugene Sandow, the world's most famous strongman. He failed to lift a 300-pound weight over his chest. Kate hoisted it over her head with one arm. She adopted the name Sanguina in his honor. Touring with Barnum and Bailey, she performed feats like lifting horses, cannons, and 14-person carousels. She retired at 64 and opened a New York restaurant where she bent steel bars for stunned diners. Number 6. Joyce Heth. Joyce had no visible deformity or superpower. She was just old age, which was exactly what a young P.T. Barnum was looking for. In 1835, he promoted her as being 161 years old and claimed she had once been George Washington's nursemaid. None of it was true. She had never met Washington and wasn't even close to that age. Barnum purchased her from her enslaver for $1,000 and toured her around the country for a year. She performed songs and invented stories about Washington's childhood. When critics accused Barnum of exploiting an elderly slave, he claimed she was free, and that proceeds from her tour were going toward liberating her family. Later, he even insisted she wasn't human at all, just a mechanical automaton made of leather and whale bones. Already frail, blind, and paralyzed from a stroke, Joyce died in February 1836. But Barnum wasn't finished. He sold tickets to her autopsy. When doctors found she was only around 80, Barnum claimed they'd examined the wrong body. Number 5. Wild Men of Borneo. The Wild Men of Borneo were 2 good brothers, Hiram and Barney Davis, known for their astonishing strength despite intellectual disabilities. They stood only 3 feet and 4 inches tall and weighed around 45 pounds each. Their showbiz careers began in 1850, when a promoter rebranded them as Wino and Plutano, claiming they'd been captured from the jungles of Borneo. To build drama, he described the brothers as violently untamed and said it took nets and firearms to subdue them. In reality, they were born in Ohio. They entertained audiences by lifting heavy objects, hoisting spectators, and engaging in mock fights with volunteers from the crowd. Their popularity surged after joining P.T. Barnum in 1880, and they remained sideshow staples until Hiram died in 1905. Barney passed away in 1912. The brothers' physical strength and exaggerated backstory made them legendary in circus lore, an act built on spectacle, endurance, and the manufactured mystery that defined the freak show era. Number 4. Samuel Parks, Hop the Frog Boy. Samuel was born in 1874 with osteogenesis imperfecta, a genetic condition best known for causing bones to break with ease. His case was especially severe, leading to hundreds of fractures, distorted limbs, and a fragile frame. His arms and legs were twisted, and his movement mimicked that of a frog. Parks debuted publicly at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair as a medical specimen, but quickly found a living touring sideshow. He leaned into the persona of Hop the Frog Boy, crawling on all fours and playing up his frog-like appearance. He was promoted as having a human head on a bullfrog's body. Parks married twice. His first wife died during childbirth, along with their second child. Their firstborn son, however, did not inherit his condition. Later, Parks married a performer known as the Connecticut Midget, and together they toured as the world's strangest couple. They eventually retired to Texas. Parks died in 1923 at age 49. Number 3. George Williams, the Turtle Boy. George Williams, aka Turtle Boy, was born with what is now believed to be parastraumatic dysplasia, a rare bone disorder marked by bowed limbs, spinal curvature, and dwarfism. Posters falsely depicted him with an actual turtle shell, but the nickname stuck. Williams stood just 18 inches tall and weighed around 39 pounds. His arms and legs curved outward, giving the impression of flippers, while his head appeared adult-like. Despite his condition, he was musically gifted, skilled on the flute and known for his impressive singing voice. Off stage, he enjoyed gambling and billiards, often playing on top of the table for better mobility. He gained attention for suing New York City after his wheelchair overturned due to a sidewalk rut, though he ultimately lost the case. Despite the spectacle attached to his image, George Williams was more than a sideshow act. He was a talented, complex man who knew how to command a room. Number 2. Mrs. General Tom Thumb. Lavinia Warren, though less known than her husband Tom Thumb, was a celebrated sideshow performer in her own right. Born in 1841 and measuring just 32 inches tall, she weighed only 30 pounds. Before circus life, she briefly worked as a teacher in Massachusetts. At 17, she joined her cousin's Mississippi River Sideshow, which eventually led her to P.T. Barnum. In 1863, she married Tom Thumb in what became a wildly publicized ceremony attended by thousands. Debate still lingers over whether their marriage was authentic or staged by Barnum for attention. The couple's baby was certainly a prop for promotion. After 20 years of marriage, Tom died of a stroke. 2 years later, Lavinia remarried Count Primo Magri, whom she had met earlier. The pair continued performing under the billing Mrs. General Tom Thumb and her husband, though Lavinia personally preferred to sign as Mrs. General Tom Thumb for the rest of her life. Number 1. The Elastic Man. Felix Verla, known across the circus circuit as the Elastic Man, had a body that baffled and amazed. He lived with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare connective tissue disorder that allowed him to stretch his skin and bend his fingers in ways that looked straight out of fiction. Audiences at Barnum and Bailey's circus were left speechless as Felix pulled the skin of his neck, twisted his arms into wild shapes, and seemed immune to physical limits. But his talent wasn't confined to the stage. He regularly startled folks at bars or on the street with impromptu tricks. His skin elasticity turned everyday moments into small performances. Critics often debated whether acts like his were empowering or exploitative, but there was no denying Felix turned his condition into opportunity. Through that uniqueness, he provided for his family, found purpose, and carved out a name that stuck long after the spotlight faded. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon.